Incarnate. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Gurhm, and today I'm talking about Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus. This game took me 18 hours to get through the campaign, playing on the hardest difficulty available your first time through. But oh my God, it was so worth it. 2017 has just felt like such a fucking dry year for FPS games. I mean, I want that grind and that blood and that badass feeling that FPSs are supposed to give you. And plus, we're killing Nazis here, people. I mean, you're doing the world a favor. Now, Machine Games and Bethesda have really pulled through, adding to the Wolfenstein franchise with bigger badass enemies, cool new abilities, and really boosting the story that has continued through Old Blood and New Order. It takes place in 1961, and you return as BJ Blazkowicz, and it continues immediately after New Order. So, you're gonna get some of the fun, funny, and even emotional story-driven gameplay that you've had before. Now, there are some issues with the game, and I'm gonna go through all those and all the goodness that this game has to offer with you, so you know what you're throwing your hard-earned cash at. Before we do that though, I want to give a big thanks to everybody for tuning in. This is my first game review and I'm so fucking excited to start doing these with you guys. So, thank you very much, and I've got to get going because I've got more Nazis to kill. Yeah! Let's get right into it. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the graphics. So, I want to say right off the bat that the game is beautiful. The world just pulls you in. There's so much detail. I mean, the level of effort that they put into filling it with all the little things that make you feel like this is a world that exists and I am in it. Man, they did a damn good job making that happen. I really felt pulled in. However, the one big complaint I had about the graphics was I had everything maxed out, including the textures. Now, I have a pretty beast rig. I'm running at 1440p, 144 Hertz with a 1080 and a 4790K. With the textures completely maxed out, they just looked blurry and were mixed in with decent textures, but also with really fucking poor textures. And in my experience, having really high fidelity textures gives you those moments where you feel like you're actually there. Walking around and seeing all these blurry textures with everything completely maxed out was a super disappointment. In 2017 in a AAA title, it should be chugging my system. I should either have to back something else off or turn down those textures. That's my biggest complaint regarding the graphics. Everything else was absolutely beautiful. The effects were really good. The physics, the shadows, and especially the lighting. There were a couple scenes where I just kept walking around and looking at things because mixed in with some of the fog effects, the lighting was so well done. Overall, I loved the graphics, and I give it a 4 out of 5 star. It was an immersive world. It made me feel like I was there. There were destructible environments, and the asset and characters were cool, and the physics and effects in the game when you killed enemies was really neat. I think you guys will really enjoy the graphics in this game. They're really beautiful. Next up, let's talk about the audio. And I want to start with something that they really did an amazing job on, and that is the voice acting. Throughout this game, I was completely amazed at how well the voice acting was done. They really brought in some good actors that knew what the tone of the scenes were and really delivered performances that made you feel like you were watching a movie.
when the bomb hit.
Yeah, I was. I survived relatively unscathed because I was on the ground at the time. When I came up, looked like a vision out of Dante's Inferno, you know what I'm saying? I remember Maine people just wandering through the smoke. I remember screams echoing through the bombed-out buildings like howling ghosts. And I remember this mother and son. This boy was blindly stumbling through the chaos. His arms were outstretched, calling out for his mama. And the heat from the bomb had melted the skin on his arms, and they just drooped. Like he was wearing a shirt that was a couple of sizes too big. And I remember his mama. She was crawling to get to him. And the half of her body was all gone. It was just gone. What are you thinking in a moment like that? When you know you're losing everything you love? What are you thinking in a moment like that, huh? Shit.
Next thing is the sound effects. All of the weapons, moving around in the world, interacting with things just sounded really good.
Figures.
The last thing I want to mention for audio is the music. And they strike a nice balance between leaving music out when the game didn't need it and putting it in when it actually boosted your gameplay. I can't fucking stand it when there's always music playing in the background. I want those moments where I can actually breathe, take in the world, and hear things I normally wouldn't hear, and just be there. One complaint I have to add about the audio is the enemy voices. Now, it's not what they were saying or how they were saying it. All that was really good. It was the volume in which I would hear it. Sometimes I would be in a room and it would sound like there was an enemy right next to me talking. But come to find out, they were in the room next to me with no open windows or doors, or even on the floor above. But it sounded like they were right next to me. It was just distracting and took me out of the world. I spent a whole bunch of time looking around in a room, trying to figure out where this guy was and make sure he didn't see me, especially when I was only one bullet away from getting killed. And then to come to find out, he was actually on the floor above. Overall, the audio was kick-ass, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. With such good sound effects, incredible voice acting, and striking that balance with the music, they just did a really good job. Next up, let's talk about the story. And we'll start with characters, because I gotta say, I fucking love the characters in this game. Not just BJ Blazkowicz, he is great, but everybody else, old and new characters that they introduced were so fun.
My brothers and sisters, for the longest time I've been hearing through the grapevine about this resistance leader named Horton.
I'm so sorry. I'm still trying to calibrate the fucker.
The fuck is this, man? Is this a working toilet I see before me? Handle toward my hand?
Yes,
Yes, this toilet can handle all sorts of waste. Feces, urine, vomitus, you name it.
Do you have asswipe?
If by that you mean toilet paper, yes. Yes, of course we need to mind our rations a little bit, but there's asswipe in
Oh, God! Oh, my God!
Yes.
Oh, my sweet God in heaven! A working, mother-flushing toilet! I never thought I'd see the day. It's just... Okay. I'm just gonna be in here for a minute.
Good luck.
No, it's not a fucking love letter. It's a performance review letter for one of the crew members.
Huh. Who?
Maria works at the fuel hangar depot. Good lass.
Okay. So you write like this. Maria, your blue eyes are like the ocean.
Shut it, just brown eyes, not blue.
Oh.
You have performed your tasks admirably. And I salute your passion, spirit.
Passion. Then you write, now I would like to admire your blue eyes over some dinner. Right, Max?
They're brown, you tosser.
Yes.
And the plot was great too. They kept that vibe of being completely ridiculous, but also being gory and serious and emotional at times even. The one big complaint that I do have about the story is the cutscene quality. And it wasn't that the cutscene quality was bad, but I had everything turned up in the game. And when it went from a pre-rendered cutscene to a in-game engine cutscene, the in-game engine cutscene looked way better than the pre-rendered.
She found us. I fucked up somehow. She tracked us down. I fucked everything up.
You think your hero, William Joseph Blazkowicz? Zieh den hoch, den Krüppel! Let me tell you, you're not.
Cutscenes used to be so much better than the in-game graphics. There's gotta be a way for developers to tie the settings that you have to the quality of the actual cutscene. All in all, the story was really well executed. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars. The characters were cool, the plot was fun and sad and dangerous and exciting at times, and really my only complaint was the cutscene quality, which is a minor complaint. They really did a good job. Next up, let's talk about the settings. And here, I literally have 0 complaints. And let's walk through why. First off is key rebindability. I went ahead and tested out rebinding all sorts of different keys, and everything worked out just fine. I didn't have any issues. None of the binds disappeared after restarting the game, and I was able to rebind any key to any movement that I wanted. Audio, video, and gameplay options all met the standards, and they even had the colorblind mode in there, which we need to make sure is always available. And the graphic options is where I want to spend a little bit of time and just point out how versatile and how much is included in there so that you can tweak this game so that it fits your rig. You've got a field of view bar with a counter, max FPS, the standard light, shadows, and particles, motion blur, image streaming, water quality, and volumetric quality, all really good stuff. And as we go further down the list, you find all sorts of other options like light map filters and decal filters, deferred rendering and GPU culling, chromatic aberration, depth of field, HDR bloom. There's so many options. They made sure to include everything so that you could tweak this game to your liking. One important feature I want to point out too is the sharpening, and I'm so glad that they brought this in. When you turn the anti-aliasing up pretty high, the graphics start to look a little bit blurry. And this sharpening option gives you the ability to make it look nice and crisp again. There's always a little bit of conflict with how much AA to use. Do you want to get rid of all the jagged edges, or do you want your images to be blurry? Now, personally, I get a little bit nauseous when things are too blurry. I want them to be sharp and crisp, but I also don't want those jagged edges. So this sharpening option really cleans it up for you. As far as settings go, I feel like Wolfenstein needs to be held up as the standard for what AAA games need to be including in there so that we have the options to tweak our games the way that we need to so that it meets the performance and quality balance that we like to hit based on our rig. They did a really good job. There's a ton of options available and it hits all the standards and even goes well beyond what most games do. So I give it a whopping 5 out of 5 stars. They nailed it right on the head. If any of you developers are watching, please follow this as a guide for you so that when we throw down $60 into a game, we know that we're gonna have the options to make sure it runs and looks how we want it to. Okay, let's talk about gameplay. And we'll get right into it with one of my favorite things, the movement. And this game really nails it. First off, I want to point out that there's great lean in this game. I think I'm a lean addict. I run around leaning all the time, everywhere I go. I love it. It just makes me feel like I'm in the game, I'm in the world doing it. Sometimes leaning was a little bit glitchy when you were close to walls, but for the most part, it's really well done, and I'm so glad that this game includes it. And I wish that every first-person shooter game would have it. It gives you the option to feel like you're there and engage in the world in a way that you might if you were actually trying to not get shot and shoot other things that don't know you're about to. I also want to point out that the HUD was really well done. Simple, gave you the information that you needed, and if you wanted to turn it off completely, they gave you that option, which I normally do if I can. It just makes me feel like I'm there more instead of always looking around at things flashing or changing on the screen. Maps and level design were really well done. It was a good mix between semi-open and linear maps, and you could even go vertical quite a bit, which gave you a lot of creative options on how you wanted to approach an area or kill an enemy. Sometimes they did feel a little bit too small though. I wish that the areas had maybe a little bit more open spaces or longer areas that you had to get through. And let's talk about the weapons. The glorious weapons. There's so many cool weapons in this game. There's nothing better than dual wielding 2 shotguns or 2 rifles. And they just felt really good to use. The sounds, the movement, the enemy impact when you shot them, it just felt good. The weapon play in Wolfenstein games is just awesome. The AI was pretty good, but if you scale it down to an easier setting, they just seemed dumb or like you were getting handheld. But once you turned the difficulty up, it was much more of a challenge. And they would do some cool stuff. Sometimes I would hear them talking to each other after I was spotted. And one of the enemies would say, "Flank him!" So I would start looking behind me, thinking that someone was gonna flank, and then they would all charge in through the front. So there was some pretty cool tactics that I saw them do to take me out. I want to talk for a second about a big complaint that I had during the game, and that's the amount of cutscenes that were put in. Over and over and over, cutscene after cutscene. Play for 20 minutes, cutscene, play for 10 minutes, cutscene, play for 20, cutscene, play for, fucking cutscene. I don't want to have to take my fucking hands off my mouse and keyboard, and sometimes they just weren't fucking necessary. There was one part where I walked up onto a ladder, and it was a really long ladder all the way up this building, and I wanted to climb up that ladder. It just looked cool going all the way up, and it was dark, and it looked like the ladder was busted up, and as soon as I put my hands on it, cutscene. I don't want to watch a cutscene of me doing something. I want to fucking do it. Now, don't get me wrong, the cutscenes were good. In fact, they were killer, and thank goodness they were, because if they weren't, I would have just fucking hurt this game so bad. Thankfully, they were actually really damn good. And they saved the game for me because of it. It was driving me crazy. So just be prepared, forewarning, there's gonna be a lot of taking your hands off your mouse and keyboard. I highly recommend having a good snack at your desk with you so that you can nibble on some shit while you wait and watch. That's it for gameplay, where I had a damn good time in this world. It was challenging, rewarding, the movement and weapons were cool with fun animations, and really my only complaint was how many goddamn cutscenes that there were. But they were good, and if they're good and keep me engaged, then I'm a happy gamer. So I give gameplay 4 out of 5 stars. And here's where we get to the very end and give a final verdict for the game. I had a fucking blast playing Wolfenstein. In fact, I'm still playing it. I'm doing all the side missions, I've downloaded the DLC, and I can't wait for more content to get put out. Was it perfect? No. It did have some issues, but this Wolfenstein sequel was an absolute fucking joy to play. I give it 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend you pick it up. If you're a first-person shooter and a Wolfenstein lover, this game is for you. They delivered in such epic ways the gameplay, the story, the audio, and of course they were on par with the settings like normal. This is a Wolfenstein that you need to play. If you love the old games, if you're a first-person shooter player, this game is for you. So I highly recommend picking it up. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next Gurhm's Garage.